What is an emergency? An emergency is a big problem that needs to be fixed right away. When we say emergency in this video, we're talking about things that affect a lot of people, like floods, hurricanes, big power outages, and times when diseases spread very fast, like COVID-19. Emergencies affect different communities in different ways. Often, emergencies happen just to certain communities. Other communities might not be affected at all. Often, emergencies are worse for some communities than others. Communities where emergencies are worst often also have less money. People in these communities often have worse health. Why are emergencies worse for some people? Policies play a big role in deciding what our communities are like. They are the main way we try to change things or keep them the same in our communities. A policy is a rule that people or groups make about how they will do things. A lot of policies are made by the government. The government makes laws about what people can and can't do. The government also gives some people money to do things it wants. All of these rules are examples of policy. Policies help decide what different places are like. The government will sometimes make rules that say what types of buildings a place can have. This is called zoning. Zoning can decide that some types of buildings can only be built in some places. Zoning can decide that some types of buildings aren't allowed in some places. This policy is used in a lot of different ways. It can be used to keep businesses that might hurt people away from where a lot of people live. It can be used to keep away new buildings that will change the way a neighborhood already is. Sometimes it is used to keep people out of some communities and in others. Zoning policies are used in a lot of different ways. How they are used depends on what the government wants to happen. One way the government decides what it wants is by listening to what people ask for. But sometimes it doesn't listen to everyone. Sometimes it decides it wants to keep communities the same because some people ask. People live in different communities because of policy decisions. Policy decides how much money a community has. Policy decides how healthy the environment in a community is. Policy decides what housing is like in a community. Policy decides who can live in a community. Many times, policy makes people of color live in communities with less money. They make people live in places that are less healthy for them. More people with disabilities also live in these communities. People without a lot of money are more likely to live in unhealthy environments. People living in an unhealthy place are more likely to become disabled. People who already have disabilities are also more likely to live in these communities. This can be because not having a lot of money or living in an unhealthy place can make someone become disabled. But it can also be because of policies that make people with disabilities live in some places and not others. This means that disasters can have a worse impact on people with disabilities because of where they live. Here is an example that shows how a disaster can affect people differently. Houston is a city in Texas. Texas gets some types of emergencies more often because of where it is. One type of emergency that happens a lot in Texas is a hurricane. Hurricanes cause a lot of wind and rain. This causes flooding. In 2017, a very bad hurricane happened called Hurricane Harvey. A lot of places in Houston flooded because of Hurricane Harvey. More people with disabilities lived in the places that flooded the worst. People of color were also more likely to live in the places that flooded the worst. People without much money were also more likely to live in the places that flooded the worst. These were all the same places. This was probably because many people with disabilities in Houston lived in public affordable housing. Public affordable housing was mostly built in poor neighborhoods. It was also mainly built in neighborhoods with more people of color. These communities had the worst flooding. Policies put affordable public housing in these communities and not others. Many times when affordable public housing is built, it is built in communities like these. Some people who make these policies are trying to do it for good reasons. Some people think this can help people where they already live. But sometimes these policies are made for bad reasons. Sometimes people in other communities don't want affordable public housing near them. They don't want people without much money living near them. They don't want people of color living near them. They don't want people with disabilities living near them. So instead, people in those communities support policies that put public housing in other places. They support policies that put public housing in communities that are poorer. This means public housing gets put in more places that are less healthy. When a policy builds affordable housing in places that are less healthy, it hurts people with disabilities. Brought to you by the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network.